Hello, happy Tag Tuesday. If you're new here, my name is Becca and today I have the Harry Potter spells tag. I haven't been tagged to do this, but I did see it on Yvette over at Bookcave's channel. I will put a link to her video down below. And I've decided to do this because I'm taking part in the Owls Magical Readathon, which runs throughout the whole of April. So I thought if I'm going to do a Harry Potter spells tag, it might as well be while I'm sitting my owls. Also, repping my house. Yeah, I'm a Slytherin. What are you going to do about it? So I believe that the original video for this was created by Turtlesympathy. However, I only found that linked on somebody's video. I don't think the video actually exists anymore, so I will try and link it down below, but I'm not sure it still exists. So let's just get into the tag. First up we have Expecto Patronum, a childhood book that brings back fond memories, and that for me is Angus Thongs and Full Frontal Snogging by Louise Renison. This is the first in the George Nicholson series of books, which were amongst my favourite growing up. I absolutely love these. I think they're hilarious. There's lots of like made up words in them that I adapted into my own vocabulary. And I was just so attached to this story and these characters. I do want to reread these because I never read the last book in the series. And they shouldn't take me too long because they're in diary format and the text is large and they're only tiny. But when I was a kid, I absolutely adored these and they were hilarious. Then we have Expelliarmus, a book that took you by surprise. For this, I've picked Saga by Brian K. Vaughan and Fiona Staples. I read this volume at the end of March. Since then, I have bought 3 more volumes, 2 Funko Pops, and I have a Funko Pop and the other 4 volumes on my birthday wish list. This took me by surprise because I have read Archie Volume 1 and most of the Walking Dead comics, and they are the only graphic novels, comics, anything like that I have ever read. And I didn't love them, and I thought that was just because I don't process things very visually. Like, I can't read diagrams, it's just not how my brain operates. So I thought that was the reason that I didn't get on with graphic novels, but I think it could just be that I hadn't found the right one. This is sort of Romeo and Juliet set in space. There's 2 people from 2 different planets. The planets are at war, but these 2 fall in love and they have a baby, and this is told sort of from the baby's perspective, and it's the story of her entire life, I imagine. I'm not sure where it's going to end. And it's just absolutely phenomenal. It is mature and it's definitely for adult readers, but I just think it's really good. I'm so attached to all the characters. The storyline is epic and I can't get enough. Then we have Prior Incantato, the last book that you read. Bit of a repeat here, but yesterday I finished Saga Volume 4. I have this thing now called Saga Saturdays, so the first thing I do when I get up on a Saturday morning is I grab my Saga comic, I go get breakfast, read a chapter while I'm having my breakfast, read another chapter while I'm having my cup of coffee. I then come back and sort of sprawl out on the sofa and read 2 more. Get dressed, get a little bit ready for the day, and then read the last 2. Unfortunately, I'm not going to have another Saga Saturday for 3 weeks when I get the remaining 4 volumes for my birthday, but I'm doing this so that I can savour them because I don't want to read them all and run out super quickly because they're just that good, and I don't want to be in like a huge sagaless book hangover void in my life. Then we have Alohamora, a book that introduced you to a genre that you hadn't considered before. For this, I don't have the book because I've lent it to a friend, and it is the Wind Up Bird Chronicle by Haruki Murakami. This is a magical realism book, and it's sort of like a twisty-turny, mindfuck, what just happened, why did it happen, who knows kind of book, which is not something that I'm into. I've read other magical realism and I didn't like it, but this was really well done, and it's a mix between the really mundane and the fantastical that I really appreciated. I do have some more Murakami books that I do want to read. My most anticipated one is 1Q84. I never would have really picked up or been interested in magical realism unless my boyfriend had read the Wind Up Bird Chronicle and said, you have to read this. Then we have Riddikulus, a funny book you've read. For this, I picked One Day by David Nichols. This is the story of Dex and Emma. They meet at university with the intentions of having a one-night stand, but they end up talking, and then they decide to go and like start a romance, and they're interrupted. This book follows the same day on every single year for about 20 years, and sometimes they're together, sometimes they're not, but they've grown to be really good friends. They sort of have dramas in their individual lives, they go out on very different paths, and it's just the chronicle of these 2 individuals, how they sort of go their separate ways but always end up coming back together. This is by a British author and it's set in the UK, and it has a very British humour in it. Obviously, I'm from England and we are known, I believe it's notorious that we are sarcastic, and it is true, the English are very sarcastic, and that humour is very much present in this book, and I really, really enjoyed that. Then we have Sonorous, a book everyone should know about. For this, I've picked a book that people do know about, it's very popular, but I've noticed with hosting the Throne of Glass read along that a lot of the people that had read the series hadn't read The Assassin's Blade. This is the collection of prequel novellas, and it chronicles Celaena's time a few months prior to her ending up in Endovia, which is where she starts off in Throne of Glass. I would recommend reading this because it is a very good introduction to the world. It is its own story when all joined together. It's the story of Celaena and Sam. It's a story of betrayal. Each little section is like a mini adventure that makes a whole. This also explains a lot of things that are hinted to in the Throne of Glass series, so if you do read this you get sort of a more full developed picture of the world. So if you had read Throne of Glass but didn't read The Assassin's Blade, I would recommend it because it does give you a lot of information that you wouldn't have had without reading it. It isn't necessary, but I think it still adds something to the story, which is something that I find is quite rare with novellas that are attached to series. Then we have Obliviate, a book spoiler that you wish you could forget having read. I'm not going to tell you what the spoiler is, obviously, but I will tell you the story attached to it. I only read Divergent this year. Something happens in Allegiance, and I remember being maybe 4 years ago now, my best friend read this series and he sort of came in and he was upset and he said, "Oh, this thing happened and I'm really upset." And I said, "Oh, did this happen?" And he said no, and I said, "Oh, well, this must have happened then," and he didn't say anything. So that was like sort of very memorable, and me going into this year, I still knew that. So there was no shock factor when it did happen, and I kind of wish I didn't know what was going to happen at the end of this book. Then we have Imperio, a book that you read for school. A lot of people pick the obvious ones for this, which for me would be Of Mice and Men, but I actually picked Romeo and Juliet because I didn't actually enjoy Of Mice and Men that much. I did really love Romeo and Juliet. I thought it was really helpful to read it in a class where everything is broken down, and it sort of helps you get the rhythm of Shakespeare's writing as well as the understanding of the actual meaning. I do have a physical copy of this. I've got the complete works of Shakespeare like way up here on top of my shelves, but my shelves are about 8 feet tall, so I can't quite reach it. But I really enjoyed Romeo and Juliet, and I really do like Shakespeare. I do want to kind of read more Shakespeare, but in SparkNotes versions, because that sort of tells you what's going on. So if you do get stuck, you have a bit to refer to, because obviously Shakespearean language is quite complex and difficult to understand, and I only did read Romeo and Juliet at school, so you don't have a great breadth of knowledge when it comes to Shakespeare. Next we have Crucio, a book that was painful to read. For this I picked Silence by Becca Fitzpatrick. If you've been with me a little while, you'll remember that I read the Hush Hush series late last year, and I really despised this book. The reason for that is that it's a filler book and nothing happens. I won't really go into what the book's about so that the people who haven't read it and still want to won't be spoiled, but if you have read it you'll know what I'm talking about when I say for the first half of the book, Nora has lost her memory, and then everything is sort of fed to her and it's all stuff that the reader already knows because she's lost her memory, and then for the sake of it being realistic, when she regains bits of it, the other characters fill it in and essentially just info dump everything that's already happened in the series. But this is halfway through the book and it's just really painful to read because it's unnecessary. This book did not need to exist at all. Then we have number 10, Avada Kedavra, a book that could kill, and you can interpret this however you want. I'm going with the interpretation of it was so good that it could kill, and that is a very recent read for me, and it is Strange the Dreamer by Laini Taylor. I didn't know what to expect when going into this, and I'm never going to tell anyone the plot, the same way that other people haven't been revealing the plot of this book. One, because it's so complex that I would have to make a full video just giving you the bare bones of the plot, and two, because I didn't know a thing and it was magical. This book makes you feel every single feeling it is possible to feel, and the writing is just so beautiful. It is brutal but written in a way that's really poetic and lovely, so it kind of makes the brutality more harsh because of the way that it's told. There's something that happens in this book that I knew that was going to happen, sort of, but my brain still denied it because I was just like, that can't happen. It can't. I'm kind of in a book hangover because anything that I read after this is trash. Like anything that is written after reading a Laini Taylor book, it just reads like it was written for a baby. Like the writing in this is unparalleled, and I'm trying not to get into a book hangover, but this is always on my mind and I have no words. If you haven't read Strange the Dreamer, then do read it. It is wonderful and complex and beautiful and magical, and definitely going to be in my favourites list of 2018. So that's everything for the Harry Potter spells tag. I am going to tag a couple of people. I'm going to tag Dora from Confessing My Reads, and also Lauren from Strawberry's Almost Human Diary. I will put the links to both of their channels down below. I would also like to tag anybody else who is doing the Elle's Magical Readathon, because it seems like the perfect time for us to be doing this tag. If you are doing this readathon and you're watching this video, then you do it too. I officially tag you. So please don't forget to like this video if you liked it and subscribe if you want to. If you head into the description box down below, you'll find a link to my Goodreads, Instagram and Twitter if you'd like to follow me on any of those, and also a link to my Bookish body butter and candle website if you'd like to check any of that out. And there's also an Instagram for that too. But that's it from me today. Bye! Since then, I have